Steve Harvey had hosted Family Feud for 15 years, but what happened on that September afternoon would haunt him forever. The young Indian woman in the stunning yellow sari had just given an answer so unexpected, so deeply personal, that the entire studio fell into stunned silence. Steve, known for his quick wit and endless commentary, found himself completely speechless as tears rolled down his face. The cameras kept rolling, capturing a moment that would soon break the internet and change countless lives. But to understand why Aditi Bedi's simple answer to a Family Feud question brought an entire production crew to tears, you need to know what nobody in that audience could have imagined. Aditi Bedi stood at the Fast Money podium, her traditional yellow sari gleaming under the studio lights like captured sunshine. The 26-year-old software engineer from Austin, Texas, had carefully chosen every element of her outfit for this moment. The ornate Mang Tika adorning her forehead had been blessed by 7 different temple priests. The gold necklace around her neck contained a small locket that nobody could see but held immense significance. Every single bangle on her wrists, all 21 of them, represented a month of waiting, hoping, and praying for a miracle that seemed impossible. The Bedi family had already defeated the Morrison family from Georgia in the main game, and now they stood on the precipice of winning $20,000. Aditi's cousin Raj had gone first in Fast Money, scoring 132 points. She needed just 68 points to win, a relatively easy target for most contestants. But Aditi wasn't most contestants. And this wasn't just any game. Steve approached her with his signature confidence, adjusting his pristine black suit jacket as he prepared for what he assumed would be another routine Fast Money round. But something about Aditi's energy made him pause. She wasn't displaying the typical nervous excitement he'd seen thousands of times before. Instead, she seemed to be holding something back, something powerful that threatened to overflow at any moment. "Aditi, you look absolutely stunning," Steve said warmly. "That yellow sari is gorgeous. Special occasion?" Aditi's hand instinctively moved to touch the fabric, and her voice trembled slightly as she responded. "This sari, it has a story, Mr. Harvey. My mother-in-law gave it to me this morning. She said it would bring blessings. She said yellow is the color of new beginnings in our culture." "Beautiful, beautiful." Steve nodded, not yet understanding the weight of her words. "Well, you know how this works. 5 questions, 20 seconds. Raj got you 132. You need 68 for that $20,000. You ready?" Aditi closed her eyes for just a moment, and in that brief second, she thought about everything that had led to this moment. The devastating diagnosis 5 years ago. The 3 failed IVF attempts that had drained their savings and their hope. The night she and her husband Vikram had held each other and cried until they had no tears left. The phone call that had changed everything. The 2 little faces in a photograph that had instantly felt like home. "I'm ready," she whispered. 20 seconds on the clock, Steve announced. "Here we go. Name something that makes a house a home." Aditi's answer came without hesitation, but her voice carried an emotion that made Steve do a double take. Children's laughter. "Name a sound that keeps you up at night." "A baby crying," Aditi responded, and a single tear escaped down her cheek. "What age do people say is the best age to be?" 3, she said, her voice cracking on the number. "Name something people save money for." "Adoption," Aditi said. And that's when she completely broke down. Steve, confused by the specificity of the answer and her emotional reaction, continued with the final question. "Name something that comes in pairs." Through her tears, Aditi gave an answer that would soon make sense to everyone. Sisters waiting for parents. The buzzer sounded, but instead of the usual post-game excitement, Aditi collapsed against the podium, sobbing uncontrollably. Steve immediately rushed to her side, his face filled with concern. "Aditi, honey, what's wrong? What's happening? Talk to me." The studio audience was completely silent, sensing they were witnessing something far beyond a game show moment. Aditi looked up at Steve, her carefully applied makeup streaming down her face, and what she said next changed everything. "Mr. Harvey, I'm sorry. I need to tell you something. Those answers, they're not just answers. My husband and I, we're adopting 2 little girls, twin sisters. They're 3 years old, and they're waiting for us in India. But we might lose them." Steve's expression shifted from concern to deep empathy. "What do you mean you might lose them?" Aditi took a shaky breath, trying to compose herself enough to explain. "We've been trying to have children for 5 years. The doctors told us our chances were basically zero. We spent everything on treatments that didn't work. $60,000, Mr. Harvey. Our entire life savings, my parents' help, everything." The audience was hanging on every word, many already reaching for tissues. "8 months ago," Aditi continued, "my husband's aunt called us from Mumbai. She volunteers at a children's home there. She told us about these twins, Anaya and Asha. They're 3 years old and have been waiting for a family since they were 1. The moment we saw their picture, Mr. Harvey, I can't explain it. It was like looking at our daughters, like they had always been ours, and we just hadn't found them yet." Steve nodded, encouraging her to continue while keeping a supportive hand on her shoulder. "We started the adoption process immediately. But international adoption from India, it's expensive. So expensive. $38,000 for everything. The agency fees, the legal costs, the documentation, the travel, the required donations to the children's home. We've scraped together $20,000 by selling my jewelry, my car, taking extra jobs. My mother-in-law sold land in India that had been in our family for generations. But we're still $18,000 short." Aditi paused, wiping her tears with the edge of her sari. "Here's the worst part, Mr. Harvey. There's another family interested in adopting them. A wealthy family from London. If we can't complete the payment in the next 30 days, we lose them. Those little girls, who already feel like our daughters, they'll go to strangers." The studio was so quiet you could hear the hum of the lights. Steve was visibly moved, his own eyes glistening. "But that's not even the hardest part," Aditi continued, her voice breaking again. "The children's home has been sending us videos. The girls have been learning English words. They call us Mama and Papa in the videos. They've been told their parents are coming for them. They made us drawings that say my family with stick figures of all 4 of us together. If we can't adopt them, how do you explain to 3-year-olds that the parents they're waiting for aren't coming after all?" Steve stood there, processing this incredible story. "So when you said sisters, waiting for parents, for things that come in pairs, I was thinking of them." Aditi nodded. "Every answer I gave was about them. The children's laughter we're desperate to hear in our house. The baby crying that we'd give anything to wake up to. 3 years old. Their age. Everything is about Anaya and Asha." "Let's look at your answers," Steve said, his voice thick with emotion. "Let's see how you did." They turned to the board, and something remarkable began happening. 32 points appeared. The number 1 answer, a baby crying for a sound that keeps you up at night. 28 points. Another strong answer. 3 years old for the best age to be. 15 points. Not the top answer, but solid. You said adoption for something people save money for. The board revealed 8 points. It was on the board, though not a common answer. "That's 83 points, Steve announced. "You've won the $20,000. The audience erupted, but Steve raised his hand for quiet. "Wait, we still have one more answer. You said, sisters waiting for parents, for things that come in pairs." The board buzzed. 0 points. The answer wasn't there. But Steve turned to the camera with tears streaming down his face. "You know what? That may be 0 points on our board, but that's the best answer ever given on this show. Sisters waiting for parents. That's worth more than any points." Aditi was crying too hard to stand, and that's when something unprecedented happened. Steve made an announcement that would change everything. "Aditi, look at me," he said, helping her stand. "You've won $20,000. That's yours. But I'm going to tell you something. The Steve and Marjorie Harvey Foundation is going to give you the other $18,000 you need. We're going to make sure Anaya and Asha come home." The studio exploded. The audience leapt to their feet in a standing ovation. Aditi's family rushed the stage. But in the middle of the chaos, Aditi did something that touched Steve's heart even more. She pulled out a small photo from the hidden pocket in her sari and showed it to him. "This is them," she said through her tears. "These are our daughters." The photo showed two little girls in matching pink dresses, holding hands, smiling shy smiles at the camera. Their eyes were bright and full of life and hope. Steve looked at the photo and made another decision. "We're going to do more than just give you the money. Family Feud is going to document your journey to bring these girls home. We want America to see this story. We want them to understand that families are made of love, not just DNA." But Aditi had one more revelation that sent shockwaves through the studio. "Mr. Harvey, there's something else. Every night at the children's home, they have the girls say goodnight to our picture. They kiss it and say, 'Good night, Mama. Good night, Papa. See you soon.' They've been doing this for 6 months. 6 months of promising, 'We're coming.' We can't let them down. We just can't." That's when Steve Harvey, the man who always had something to say, who'd built a career on quick comebacks and humor, stood silent for a full 10 seconds. When he finally spoke, his voice was barely controlled. They won't have to wait much longer because their parents are coming for them. "You and Vikram are going to India, and you're bringing your daughters home." The episode aired 2 weeks later, and within hours, it had been shared millions of times. The clip of Aditi saying, "Sisters waiting for parents," and Steve's emotional response became one of the most watched moments in television history. But what happened next exceeded everyone's expectations. A GoFundMe page that Vikram had quietly set up months earlier suddenly exploded with donations. People weren't just donating the $18,000 needed. They were giving more. Messages poured in from around the world. Parents who had adopted. Couples struggling with infertility. Families who understood the agony of waiting. Everyone saw themselves in Aditi's story. Within 48 hours, the fund had raised $300,000. Aditi and Vikram were overwhelmed. They made a decision that would impact many more lives. They would take only what they needed for Anaya and Asha's adoption and use the rest to start a foundation, helping other families adopt children from India who had been placed to one, waiting the longest for homes. 3 weeks after the episode aired, Steve Harvey and a small film crew met Aditi and Vikram at the airport. They were flying to Mumbai to bring their daughters home. Aditi wore another traditional sari, this one in deep purple. "Purple represents the universe's infinite possibilities," she explained to Steve. "Today, anything is possible." The journey to Mumbai was emotional. Aditi and Vikram showed Steve videos the children's home had sent of the girls. In one, they were learning to write their new last name, Bedi, in careful, wobbly letters. In another, they were looking at a picture of Aditi and Vikram, practicing saying Mama and Papa in English. When they arrived at the children's home, a modest building in a crowded Mumbai neighborhood, nothing could have prepared them for the moment of meeting. The girls were in the playroom, unaware their new parents had arrived. The caretakers wanted to prepare them first. But then Asha saw Vikram through the window. She grabbed her sister's hand and shouted, "Papa! Papa, come! Anaya! Papa here!" Anaya looked and saw Aditi, and both girls began jumping up and down, calling out, "Mama! Papa! You came! You came!" The reunion that followed broke everyone who witnessed it. Aditi and Vikram rushed into the room, falling to their knees as the girls ran into their arms. The girls touched their parents' faces over and over, as if making sure they were real. They kept saying, "You came for us," in a mixture of Hindi and English. Steve, standing back with tears streaming down his face, said to the camera, "In 30 years of television, I've never seen anything like this. This is what love looks like. This is what family means. The girls had prepared something special. With help from the caretakers, they had learned a song in English to sing for their new parents. As they sang "You Are My Sunshine" in their sweet voices, holding hands and swaying back and forth, there wasn't a dry eye among the entire film crew. The next days were a whirlwind of paperwork, getting to know each other, and preparation. But the cameras captured beautiful moments too. The girls showing their parents every corner of the children's home. Their first restaurant meal as a family, where the girls tried ice cream for the first time. Anaya and Asha insisting on holding their parents' hands constantly, as if afraid they might disappear. One particularly powerful moment came during their last night at the children's home. The girls showed Aditi and Vikram where they had kept the family photo and demonstrated their nightly routine. "Every night we kiss you," Asha explained seriously. "And we say, 'See you soon, Mama Papa.'" "But now," Anaya added with a huge smile, "we don't need the picture. We have real Mama Papa." The journey back to America was captured in touching detail. The girls' wonder at the airplane, their first time seeing clouds from above, their excitement at having their own seats, the way they fell asleep holding their parents' hands, finally secure that they were really going home. When they landed in Austin, a surprise awaited. The local Indian American community had organized a welcome party at the airport. Hundreds of people were there with signs in English and Hindi saying, "Welcome home, Anaya and Asha." The girls, overwhelmed but happy, waved shyly at everyone from their parents' arms. But the biggest surprise was waiting at their house. The Harvey Foundation hadn't just given money. They had completely renovated a room for the girls. It was painted in soft purples and pinks, with butterflies on the walls. The children's home had mentioned the girls loved butterflies, filled with toys and books in both English and Hindi. When the girls saw their room, Asha asked in wonder, "This ours?" "All yours, baby," Vikram confirmed. Anaya ran to one of the beds and jumped on it, then ran to the other and jumped on that one too. "2 beds for 2 sisters," she announced proudly. 6 months later, Family Feud aired a follow-up special. The transformation was remarkable. The girls had adjusted beautifully to their new life. They were in preschool, making friends, and thriving in every way. Their English had improved dramatically, though they still mixed in Hindi words, creating their own delightful family language. "They've taught us more than we've taught them," Aditi told Steve. "They've taught us that families aren't about how you come together. They're about choosing each other every single day." The special revealed that the foundation Aditi and Vikram started had already helped 12 families complete adoptions from India. They focused on children who had been waiting the longest, older children, sibling groups who didn't want to be separated. "Every child deserves a family," Vikram said. "Sometimes they just need a little help finding each other." One of the most powerful moments came when Steve asked the girls what they liked best about their new life. Anaya, now confident and articulate, said, "We don't have to say goodnight to a picture anymore. We say goodnight to real Mama and Papa." Asha added, "And they're still there in the morning, every morning." Steve asked Aditi about the adjustment, the challenges of instant motherhood. "I won't lie and say it's easy," Aditi responded honestly. "There are tantrums. There are nights they wake up scared. There are times they test every boundary we set. But then there are moments when they run to me after school shouting, 'Mama,' or when they crawl into our bed for morning snuggles. And those moments make everything worth it. We waited 5 years for them. They waited 3 years for us. Now we're making up for lost time." The follow-up special also featured other families who had been inspired by Aditi's story. A couple from California who adopted siblings from foster care. A single mother who adopted an older child from India. Each credited seeing Aditi's emotional Family Feud moment as the push they needed to take the leap. "You didn't just save 2 girls," one mother told Aditi via video call. "You started a movement. You showed us that sometimes love means fighting through every obstacle to bring your children home, even when they're on the other side of the world." Steve Harvey revealed that the moment when Aditi said, "Sisters waiting for parents," had become one of the most shared clips in Family Feud history. But more importantly, he said, "It's changed how we think about the show. We've had so many families come on here with adoption stories, fostering stories, blended families, chosen families. You showed us that this platform can do more than entertain. It can genuinely change lives. 2 years after bringing the girls home, Aditi was invited to speak at a national adoption conference. She stood at the podium, wearing the same yellow sari she'd worn on Family Feud, now a symbol of hope for thousands of families. 2 years ago, I stood at a different podium, crying over 2 girls I was afraid I'd never bring home. She began. Today, those girls are in the audience with my husband, probably not sitting still, definitely eating snacks when they shouldn't be, and absolutely perfect in every way. The audience laughed, and the camera showed Anaya and Asha, now 5 years old, waving enthusiastically, their matching purple dresses, their choice, bright spots in the crowd. Adoption isn't about finding perfect children or being perfect parents, Aditi continued. It's about finding your children, the ones whose faces you see when you close your eyes, the ones whose laughter you hear in your dreams before you've ever met them. Anaya and Asha were always our daughters. It just took us a while to find each other. She paused, looking at her daughters. People ask if we're planning to adopt again. The answer is yes, because there are more children waiting, more siblings who need to stay together, more love waiting to be given and received. The announcement made headlines. The Bedi family's story had become larger than just one adoption. It had become a beacon of hope for adoption globally. 3 years after that memorable Family Feud episode, something incredible happened. Aditi discovered she was pregnant. After being told for years that their chances were essentially zero, after coming to terms with building their family through adoption, life surprised them with an unexpected gift. When they told the girls they were going to be big sisters, Anaya's response was perfect. "We waited for you. Now we can help the baby not have to wait." Asha added, "We'll teach the baby everything. English words and Hindi words and how to be a Bedi." Steve Harvey invited them back to Family Feud for a special announcement. Standing on the same stage where their journey had begun, Aditi, now visibly pregnant, spoke about the unexpected turn their story had taken. People ask me all the time, do you love your adopted daughters differently now that you're having a biological child? The answer is no. I forget they're adopted. They're just my daughters. That era, they are in day. This baby will be our 3rd child, not our real child. Anaya and Asha made us parents. This baby just makes us parents of 3, Vikram added. We learned that sometimes when you stop chasing one dream and embrace a different path, life surprises you. But our girls aren't a consolation prize for infertility. They're the grand prize. They're exactly who was meant to be in our family. The girls, now 6, had prepared something special for the announcement. They performed a traditional Indian dance they had been learning, ending with revealing a sign that said, "Best Big Sisters Ever, coming soon." Steve, moved as always by this family, said, "This is what I love about your story. It keeps getting better. It keeps showing us that families are made in all sorts of ways, and they're all beautiful." 5 years after that first emotional Family Feud episode, the Bedi family had become advocates for adoption, regularly sharing their story to encourage others. Their foundation had helped facilitate over 100 adoptions. They had 3 children, Anaya, Asha, and their son Dev, who was 2 years old and looked like a perfect blend of his parents with his sister's mischievous spirit. At a special Family Feud reunion show, Steve asked Anaya and Asha what they remembered about their adoption. Anaya, now 8 and eloquent beyond her years, said, "I remember waiting. I remember hoping every day that our parents would come. And then one day, they did. And they were even better than we imagined." Asha, also 8 and full of energy, added, "We used to share everything at the children's home. Toys, clothes, everything. Now we have our own things, but we still share the most important thing, our family." Little Dev, not to be left out, chimed in with his favorite fact. "I have the best sisters. They teach me everything." Steve asked Aditi to reflect on the journey from that tearful fast money round to now. When I stood at that podium 5 years ago, I thought my heart would break if we couldn't bring our girls home, she said, looking at her family. What I didn't know was that my heart needed to break open to make room for all this love. Every tear I cried that day was worth it, because it led us here. She continued, people watching that day saw a woman desperate to adopt, but what they were really seeing was a mother fighting for her children. I just didn't know it yet. Anaya and Asha were always ours. That game show appearance just helped us afford to bring them home. Steve had one more surprise. The Family Feud Foundation had created the Bedi Family Grant, an annual fund specifically for families adopting siblings from international children's homes. Your story didn't just change your lives, Steve told them. It changed how we think about families. It showed millions of people that love doesn't require shared DNA. It just requires showing up, fighting through obstacles, and never giving up on each other. As the reunion show ended, the camera pulled back to show the entire Bedi family, Aditi, in another beautiful sari pink, this time for joy, Vikram beaming with pride, Anaya and Asha in matching dresses they'd picked out themselves, and little Dev in a tiny kurta already trying to steal the spotlight from his sisters. Steve's final words captured it perfectly. 5 years ago, a woman cried over an answer about sisters waiting for parents. Today, those sisters are home. They're thriving. And they've shown us all that families find each other in the most unexpected ways. Sometimes it takes a game show, $38,000, and a leap of faith. But mostly, it just takes love. The yellow sari that started it all now hangs framed in the Bedi home. Right next to the photo, Aditi had shown Steve of 2 little girls in pink dresses, alongside newer photos of all 3 children together. Below it, Aditi had hung a simple sign that reads, "Love finds a way." The story that began with tears of desperation had become a testament to the power of determination, the importance of community support, and the beautiful truth that families aren't always born. Sometimes they're discovered across continents, brought together by faith, hope, and the unshakable belief that love is stronger than any obstacle. Every year on the anniversary of the Family Feud episode, the Bedi family watches the video together. The girls laugh at how young they looked in the footage from India. Dev asks repeatedly if he can be on TV too. And Aditi and Vikram hold hands, remembering the journey that brought them to this moment. "Mama," Asha asked during the most recent viewing, "were you sad because you thought you might not get us?" "I was terrified," Aditi answered honestly. "But you know what? If I had to do it all over again, all the waiting, all the worry, all the tears, I would, because it brought me you." Anaya added thoughtfully, "We were worth waiting for." "Yes, baby," Vikram said, pulling all his children close. "You were worth everything."